Hey all, it's Mith from Millennial Fantasy again, here at you with the very impressive dungeon, namely the Akadaemia Anyder. I definitely love this underlying tune. I think it's a very different thing than what we're normally used to, right? So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So this footage is again from quite a while back, close to maybe a month, maybe 3 weeks, something like that. And we can just, you know, have a little chat with each other about how this was, some stuff about the lore, some of the interesting tidbits, some thoughts, and a bit of a comment on some of the bosses or interesting trash as well. So yeah, this story starts out with one of the Ondo, which was one of the fish people, if you guys remember, coming up to Yulmore and talking to us in panic, like about a great beast of savage temperament coming to the seas and trying to, you know, hurt these fish people we love so much. The Ondo fear it is an omen that they have somehow incurred the wrath of the ancients, and perhaps a visit to the bureau of the administrator who will explain the mystery behind the creature's sudden appearance. So that's an extract from the duty journal, or the quest journal, for the Akadaemia Anyder. So at this point in the run, we actually find out that one of the people, I won't show you the chat, but one of the people is missing, is still AFK in the entrance of the Akadaemia Anyder here, which means that I have to DPS this one alone. Again, I won't go too much into the gameplay aspect here. I think the other content we have on the channel, like the live streams and some of the Eden commentaries or reviews, are a bit more appropriate for that kind of stuff. As I said before, this is a while back as well, this footage, so it's cool to have a look back and see what you're doing though. So at this moment, the tank also realized, oh, we're free manning this, and now the fourth person actually admits that he spilled his drink over his desk. So yeah, at least he has a good story behind it. So we continue on with the trash, a bit slower than one maybe would expect with a DPS missing. And my still subpar AoE DPS, slightly due to myself as well, obviously. But at least the tank likes the pull, which is good, especially at this point, because the challenge isn't really that much anymore. As you saw at the beginning, our item level is 6 to 470. And I think when this came out, maybe like 450 was sort of the good stuff. I can't really tell you to be honest, because I wasn't playing at that point, or at least not playing Shadowbringers. I was still doing my A Realm Reborn shenanigans at that point. So some comments about the trash. I think in terms of, you know, models, they're all based on aquatic animals that are you know, that we see in our world, or at least are based on things we see in our world. The story behind it is that the Akadaemia Anyder is this hub of creation magics that we see so much in Amarot. And, you know, this is sort of their lab where they try and create things that are more interesting. So this is sort of the aquatic area, right? So at least the fourth person is back again for the first boss. You know, we hear the tune change up to the boss theme for Shadowbringers, which is definitely one of my favorites. So in the meantime, we see this blue little shark guy. Nothing too interesting about him. You know, there's a point blank AoE, dodge that, just DPS him down. But now we see his red friend come up. And we have this target switch between two of these bosses, while the blue shark goes around and you know, is a bit scary. What is he gonna do? We don't know. And you saw this cone thing from the red shark as well, and you'll find that the point blank AoE sort of belongs to the blue one, and the cone sort of belongs to the red one. Because now you see the blue shark, I was having my eye on him, being in the corner of my screen. He will jump on a platform and do one of those point-blank AoEs. I have a AoE circle on my head, which I need to get away from the aquatic lands. I am a bit late here and actually moving away from the puddle, which will slow me and give me some DPS, some damage as well. So here you see the red shark in the distance trying to charge his attack. With a very small telegraph, you see this cone. So as I said, the cone belongs to the red one, and the point blank AoE belongs to the blue shark. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this fight. These two guys sort of start swirling around each other, trying to hurt the platform with you on it, obviously. But other than that, there's not too much going on. And as you can see, the DPS is pretty decent at this point, so we are definitely, you know, getting them down pretty quickly relatively to how long we're doing. Obviously there are a lot of people who do this a lot quicker probably, but yeah. So that's pretty much it for this boss. I do know that if you kill one of them, the other one has sort of this enrage where he does more damage. But other than that, there doesn't seem to be that much interesting things going on. So absolutely. That's it for that. So now we move away from this aquatic creation magic, where apparently some of the Omarotines have, you know, used their creativity to make all these aquatic animals, and from the aquatic animals we now go more into the floral, plant-based stuff. And we notice as well in the background that, you know, there's some panic going on in the lab. People are running away, something has happened, which definitely, you know, augments the theory that the monster that the Ondo are scared of has in fact been released from the Akadaemia Anyder. So we have some more trash as well, nothing too interesting to talk about. As I said before, the models are a bit more plant-like this time rather than the aquatic ones we had before. So in the meantime, let's see if we can find the interesting description from the Duty Finder about Akadaemia Anyder. I'll read this out to you guys. In a quiet corner of Amaroth stands an unremarkable entrance to a most remarkable institution, the Akadaemia Anyder. Within its hallowed halls, the star's ancient overseers toil to perfect the godlike arts of creation magics. Their research and experiments bringing into existence myriad forms of fantastical life. Yet even if these creations be naught but reflections of reality, mere phantasms woven from ether, the techniques which engender such miracles are a source of undeniable power. Step now across the threshold and behold the glories of a civilization lost to the ages. So as I said, that's from the Duty Finder description before you jump into this dungeon. So absolutely, you know, so far in terms of aesthetics, tunes, beautiful dungeon. I mean, I really like the story behind it. I think it's an interesting sort of world building part they do for the Amaroth piece, which is impressive by itself, but this just, you know, gives it that extra edge. I like the jazzy tune underneath it. In terms of trash, it's a bit bland, but at least the models, you know, they fit with the actual area you are in. So here we are again with the second boss. His name is Marquis Morbol. So it's definitely, you know, based on some of the basic Morbol mobs you see in Final Fantasy XIV, but also I believe, as far as I've seen from other Final Fantasy games, pretty standard, you know, monster that you find in the game. So there's a few mechanics here to take care of. So now you just saw all these, you know, all these tentacles flapping about. I'm need to learn it the hard way apparently, to not stand on one of the tentacles. But he constantly shifts around and turns around, and you know, you don't want to stand right directly under one of those big tentacles. Yeah, I believe there are 4 of them. And also you don't want to stand in front of him, because he will shoot out that bile stuff. So obviously, you know, getting a front on this guy is pretty hard, but you can use his sort of arms in the model there to make sure you don't stand in the front. So actually realize this at this point and decide not to stand in front of him. And there's also these zones about, right? But those are pretty, you know, basic. So here we are at the back of the boss, but as I said, the back is a bit more greenish, where the front has these red lipish stuff. So here I am trying to not stand under one of the tentacles, but other than that, that's pretty much it for this boss. So we have a few more bigger AoE circles that we need to spread out, called Sap Shower. I believe the puddle we were talking about, that ability is called Blossom, and it will give you heavy and vulnerability up, so make sure you really don't stand in it, because it might, in the end, actually kill you. But other than dodging the tentacles, and, you know, not standing in front of him with his abilities, that doesn't really help too much. He will do the frontal cone attack after he's done flapping his tentacles about, so once he has actually done that, you can, you know, be a bit more loose about standing where you want to stand, etc. Once those tentacles goes up, you have to be afraid of where they will land, and you actually have to dodge them. But this is a decent group, and these guys know what they're doing, so definitely not too much of an issue. So after killing this plant boss known as Marquis Morbol, we continue on with the rest of the instance. We go into the Words of Halmarut, which was the previous zone. Flee the way you came, even worse lies ahead. The Amarantine screams to us while he flees. But we now go into the Words of La Brea, a little old reference to our interesting antagonists from the Realm Reborn and a bit of Heavensward as well. Obviously, you know, you guys have played so far, so you guys know what's going on. So here we have more of a, you know, mammalian or mechanical type. You know, it's more of a, I'm not exactly sure what a Bandersnatch is, but I believe it's a play on like chimeras and sort of more mechanical based mobs here. So yeah, but in terms of mechanics, I mean, they do some cones and there's some AoE circles, but other than that, isn't too much to go on. So it's just AoE him down and continue on with the rest of the instance here. We have one more boss that awaits us. And if you look at the right to the duty information, there's a little bit of an interesting part as well that we started in the ichthyology part, which was the aquatic zone. We went to the phytobiology part, which is, you know, obviously a reference to sort of a plant-based thing. Now we are into phantomology zone, which is, yeah, probably a reference to more of a ghost-like thing. This is madness. What do? We see the lab overrun by all kinds of things. There's a hint to a Pegasus here. So maybe it's more of like a mythical creation magics, where people use their imaginations to, you know, combine mammals and make them fly. And, you know, there's obvious references to the things we do in this world as well. Or at least the mythical creatures we have in this world. So let's jump into a description from the journal again. So I was talking about that we talked to one of the Ondo, right? And we went to the clerk, the bureau of the administrator, to check with the clerk what it is. And after hearing your description, this is from the journal. After hearing your description of the beast, the clerk at the bureau of the administrator suspects it may be one of Akadaemia Anyder's creations. He sends you south to the public offices of the Akadaemia, suggesting that you repeat your tale at the institution's front desk. Afterwards, once more you describe the savage creature with the cavernous maw, only to be told that the beast in question is in fact under the supervision of the Akadaemia scholars. So before we go on, I'll have a little look at this part here. So we hear the Akadaemia researcher saying, I offer up my life's energies in the name of noble creation. Come forth, Quetzalcoatl, tame the frenzy which profanes these halls. Then we get this cool, you know, cinematic thing where he offers himself up and turns into Quetzalcoatl, the last boss of the Akadaemia Anyder, the Guardian Force. I'm quite sure this is a play on some of the bosses in Final Fantasy. I know there's a reference to Final Fantasy 15 in here. But we start off with the amazing like end boss of Shadowbringers dungeon tunes, which has a slight, you know, drift on the normal boss theme from Shadowbringers. But this always gets me hyped up. You know, it's a really cool play on the general Shadowbringers tune. And there's a bit more going on in this fight as well. So we have these orbs that, after a while, you need to collect. I wasn't really noticing that before, but there's a lot of different orbs in this fight. After this knockback, you need to run back to his safe zone to make sure you don't get hit by the expanding orbs. Once you are underneath him, you can just, you know, DPS at your heart's content before you get exploded to oblivion by Quetzalcoatl. But yeah, there's a lot of health, so there are these, you know, buffs around that you can get. There's these thunderstorm procs, and here are the little buffs, but I'm not realizing that they actually buff you, even though they give damage up buffs to my friends, right? But yeah, they're probably better used by a black mage than by a healer or a tank to a certain extent, I suppose. But other than that, you know, there's some AoE damage again, some thunderbolt going on, and there's these sparks again. So I'm going to stand in a safe spot and get some damage. And here's some of the orbs we get again, the damage up orbs. So again, there's a little twist of mechanics when you have to run back towards the boss and dodge some of the orbs there. So that's a cool twist. But other than that, you know, collecting from that some buff orbs, dodging circles, dodging some of the marks you see on the floor. It's pretty standard stuff, right? So here we get the knockback to the back again, and now we need to run back. Unfortunately, I am a bit late. I could have used my sprint here, but I did not. I get some damage, but nothing that will kill me, so to say. It would be interesting if the parkour here was a bit different each time you did it, because now I have the feeling that every time you walk to the boss you just move a bit to the right and then you go in, but they could have used a bit more variance in that. But it's cool stuff. We keep on DPSing him and he should go down pretty quickly. So other than that, I think, yeah, so far about this instance, I like it better than the instance we did before, the twinning. I think this has a bit more story behind it, a bit more interesting stuff. And there we go, he is dead. We go into the end cinematic of the story before I leave you guys to your beautiful day. And he sacrificed himself to make this guardian thing. So that's definitely a bit sad. Now I realize why we have the sad face at the end of the instance. So yeah, after a bit more from the duty, the quest journal, we were talking about the cleric at the start, seeing no harm in allowing you, a resident sponsored by Emmett Selk, an educational visit to their hallowed halls. The academics send you into Akadaemia Anyder to confirm the creature's containment for yourself. Afterwards, we have concluded our tour of Akadaemia Anyder, finding the entire institution besieged by chaos and carges. Return to the front desk and make your report to the waiting academy. So here we are at the front desk talking to the academic, and we tell him the experiments have escaped. So this guy is a bit reluctant that we actually, screwed some things up, or at least that they screwed some things up. But maybe Emmett Silk didn't really think this one through in terms of what he made. And apparently there's another, glimpse of La Brea that he is actually one of the guys that are in charge of the Akadaemia Anyder. And here it also says, I never thought of La Brea as an academic. And that the scholars had turned into monsters. And there was the shape-chitching stuff. Which sort of combines the, shape-shifting of the last boss we saw, plus the actual creation magics we were talking about. And we were never thought La Brea as an academic. What does our cleric say to that? So that was a reference to the phantomology thing we saw. So he's definitely an expert on phantom creation. But after our small little chat with the cleric, we make our departure from the Amaroutines, and we go back to our Ondo friends to report our findings. And the beast we were talking about is called, if by some miracle, Archaeotania. If by some miracle Archaeotania has gained its freedom, then what has become of the researchers tasked to contain it? So that was the beast they were referencing. And now we are told to go back to our the overwrought Ondo and report our findings. So the Ondo was in Yomor, so I'll skip on until that point, and then we can turn in this dungeon quest. Let's go there. We have returned. And the beast was escaped and not released to torment us. So even though the creation itself is terrible, at least they know it's not their fault. It's not the ancients giving them some punishment for stuff. And now he's giving us the option to go with us and hunt. So that's it for the Akadaemia Anyder. As I said before, if you guys like this sort of stuff, please let me know in the comments. If you have any feedback. And furthermore, if you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps it out a lot. I have been Mith from Millennial Fantasy. Please take care.